And that's it for today's show.
Yeah, really.
We'll be back again next week.
Oh, no, not really. I got plenty of stuff for today. It was a good week. Yeah. I had, Kevin the Blade, the intern that I've been able to hire, thanks to the support of people on the show, has been working on the Big App Show, so I had a lot of time to do stuff, and I think it's going to pay off. I think.
Well, I didn't get that much accomplished. I mean, I ended up watching a lot of C-SPAN. Mm-hmm. Followed a very good exposition on the Arab lobby, which brought up to. Unfortunately, the guy gave a long-hour speech. I only got a couple of clips that are worth. I could condense down, but it just confirmed our normal beliefs that we have here on this show as part of our. I guess our generalized theses about certain people, like Bill Clinton, for example. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I don't know if you want to get into that now or later, if you have something that's really hot. I mean, I do one thing I do want to mention at the top of the show, which is the fact that Ron Paul came out in support of WikiLeaks, saying that the truth is the way people should be oriented toward the truth, and he can't understand why everybody's upset about this.
Well, there's one thing I want to say about that.
With Huckabee and Palin, by the way, I want to mention everybody out there that when surveys are done with the original Tea Party group and they said who should be president, they all said Ron Paul, and then nobody ever heard of Palin having anything to do with the Tea Party. Now she's taken it over.
Hijacked.
She's the one that thinks that the poor guy, Assange, should be tried for treason. He's not even an American.
So, first of all, and I think Congressman Paul is absolutely right. However, what I took a little bit of offense towards is the way the message has been changed in blogs and articles is Ron Paul takes a stand and supports Julian Assange. That is not exactly what he did. He did not say Assange is a good guy. He said the truth is always good to get out there. He said something very, very different. But every single email I received about it is, the titles literally are. Let me see if I can find one of these titles. Literally is,
that's interesting.
Ron Paul supports Julian Assange, backs him up.
That's not right. That's true. He was more or less supporting a concept.
Yes, exactly.
I don't think he's ever met Julian Assange.
No. Well, let's just stay on this for just a second, if you don't mind, the Ministry of Truth, because it's a very difficult topic for our listening group, because the whole idea of someone taking government documents, putting them out there, leaking the documents, and there's obviously some interesting stuff in there. Not much that I don't think we've discussed or at least presumed on this program, and has turned out to be pretty much confirmed from these leaks. But when we come down on WikiLeaks and Julian Assange and say, well, the guy is clearly is a front for either CIA or military-industrial complex, people get confused. And I want to see if I can put this into some context, and I actually have some audio that may help a little bit. And the first thing is, when we say that someone is a front, I don't think it's actually like Julian Assange meets on the park bench with the guy with the newspaper handing him his although it could be, it could be, but it's more like Sim City. Okay, so there are people who play the real game of Sim City or Farmville. Maybe that's an even better example for you. And you plant stuff, you put your sprouts in, you do your thing, and then people do things as behaviors. And the model of Sim City, says, well, you may have too many small businesses, therefore your economy won't grow fast enough. You need some big businesses, and you need to borrow money. I mean, and they play this, and they play people, and they do it in a number of ways. And I was listening to an interview with Julian Assange. He was interviewed by The Economist. And this was an on-camera interview. Of course, the interview was completely chopped up and has been edited, so, who the hell knows? That's always, you got to be very careful with those things. But this was right after the first round of leaks, the Iraq videos and all the documents about, 19,000 more people, servicemen and women being killed in foreign wars than was reported. And so what they do with The Economist is they have this tea time, and they sit down, they have tea with someone. This is it's their little cutesy way of interviewing. Oh, it's time to sit down and have some tea. And I want you to listen very, very carefully. I have 3 clips here. And it really shows you how it works and what WikiLeaks is all about. And then after you've heard this, you'll start realizing that it is not what it seems to be. And you can easily be hoodwinked by what you think is a purely good move by a group who really stands for freedom of press, etc. So the first thing, and this is an amazing piece of audio, and I'm sure his mission has not changed in the past few months since the first release. Listen to what he says about how these documents are actually leaked, and words do matter in this.
How would you characterize the response to the publication, and has it had the impact that you anticipated?
We can look at 2 kinds of response. We can look at the media response and then the response by governments and other people. I think it's still a bit too early to look at the second in detail. That's still coming out. But for the media response, our initial publishing group have got...
Now, did you hear what he just said?
Boy, it's hard to understand him.
He says, our initial media publishing group. He's speaking of the mainstream media who actually, and you'll find this out in a moment, who are actually the true recipients of the leaks. He speaks of them as his editorial, and he, by the way, is the editor. Everything's about edit. But he says the media group, his media group.
That's the ones that in this case he's referring to the Guardian.
Yeah, he'll actually say it. Listen to this. Listen to how proud he is of his media group.
The response, our initial publishing group of Guardian, New York Times, and Der Spiegel pushed very strongly on this.
So our initial media group pushed very strongly on this.
With an extensive editorial space. So Guardian did 14 pages in the paper, Der Spiegel 17 pages, and of course we had the cover of New York Times as well. So there's a strong initial acceptance by our group of the importance of this material. Subsequently, looking at Google News today, I see there are over 6,000 stories on this topic.
So he's very proud of his initial publishing group. And I just think that the words matter in this one. You know, it's like, okay, so is that what does that mean, initial publishing group? Is that the group that you selected? Is it the group that you've been in cahoots with? And he actually answers it when he talks about what their true mission is. Their true mission now. This is Julian Assange, and I think this is really important.
Where did you get this?
Again, this is from an Economist interview where I did the whole lead-in. Where were you? Were you like clipping your nails?
No, but where was it? I never saw any. I don't see audio on the Economist website.
Oh, well, I have the link in the show notes, noagendashow.com. You can look at it yourself. It's about 10 minutes. And it's edited, but this is directly from him. So listen to this.
I understand that when you first launched WikiLeaks, or when it first began, that the idea was that you put stuff out there and it would be raw material for people to comment on, and bloggers would seize upon it because they didn't have their own people on the ground in Afghanistan or Baghdad. But that didn't work, and that you had to do this other thing instead of taking your material and releasing it to mainstream media organizations.
Do you hear this?
Yeah, I'm listening.
This is probably the clearest example of that. So we still need people to go through it and do the sifting and make a story out of this. You can't just do dumping of data online.
That's right. I mean, that has been our experience. We see actually that the professional press has a nose for what a story will be.
Now, This goes against everything I ever thought WikiLeaks was trying to propagate. So what I'm understanding now, and he continues in a moment, is we tried just doing raw data dumps and have people sift through it and come up with stuff. That didn't work, apparently. So they changed course, and they decided to leak it to the press, to their publishing group, because they seem to have a nose for what a story will be. And who is this guy working for? He's admitting literally that he works with the press to come up with the story.
The general public becomes involved once there is a story, once there is an issue of the day, and then can come forward and help mine the material. But they're not incentivized to do that until they see what the story is. And our goal is, of course, not to just have people reading documents. Our goal is to achieve political reforms through...
Political reform. They're a political group. Am I just hearing this the wrong way, John?
Well, when he says our goal is to achieve political reforms...
That sounds to me like he's a political group.
Yeah.
Okay.
The release of suppressed information. And we make a promise to the sources who come to us. Firstly, we'll protect them through legal, political and technical means. Secondly, we'll try and get the greatest possible impact for their material.
Now, you talk about your goal being political reform. Critics say that releasing this sort of information helps the Taliban, that the mullahs are, the winners here, and
Which
so
critics?
forth. This is a criticism of what you're doing online. Columnists are saying this, some journalists are saying this. All right, so
you have to be careful, because are we talking about Nobel Prize winners, or are we talking about right-wing bloggers?
Well, whoever they are...
So now he's like, who said that? Some right-wing blogger or a Nobel Prize winner? Very confusing to me. But it all becomes very, very clear when it turns out that they actually edit these documents. They edit them, then give them to the mainstream media.
I think that's a well-known fact.
Well, yeah, but then he says something else that's really weird.
The White House that this is a threat to security, and then other analysts are saying that actually there's nothing that new here, and that if you've been following this at all, that you won't be surprised by this. There's just a lot more detail. What do you think about that?
No, this is just typical nonsense from analysts who can't actually be bothered to read the material. How do they know there's nothing new there? 91,000 reports. Did they read 91,000 reports? Even our journalistic team only read in detail around 2,000 reports. And the stories that you're seeing come from that. We just see the Canadian press...
So they don't actually read all the reports, is what I'm hearing there. But here,
which contradicts the idea that they blue line stuff.
Well, here it is.
Political, historical, or ethical significance, and was not self-authored. Provided it meets that criteria, it will then go through a harm minimization process.
Oh, harmonization process. Oh, it goes through a harmonization process.
Self-authored. Provided it meets that criteria, it will then go through a harm minimization process to make sure that the outcome of it is not to cause harm, but is in fact likely to cause a good effect. Once that is done, we publish the entire material.
I don't know. I found this very disturbing that they edit it, they take out stuff that may be harmful to people. What's the point? And then they hand it off to mainstream media. I don't understand how it's supposed to work. It doesn't sound like this is a big dump of data. It just doesn't. And then, you get these reports coming out, which was actually kind of funny. This report hit the wires today. U.S. considered arresting noted CIA asset Ahmed Wali Karzai for drug running. And, of course, we've been talking about Karzai's brother for a long time, that he's the biggest drug runner. He owns the Toyota dealership and the plant and all that stuff. But then you read the actual cable that this came from. It doesn't say that at all.